Hello everyone, welcome back. So like I mentioned, we could actually leave our water material like that if that's what you want, because really that's just how the surface of water looks in some situations. But let's just add things like a layer of dirt or some different material assigned to this water. So let's just do that here. But first, let me save this version. So I'll save as, I'll call that water underscore 02, just to save an incremental version. Now I believe there's an incremental save, so when we click save incremental, this will numerically increase that save and not overwrite. So from here on, I'll just use Shift Alt S or just save incremental so we can see any progress steps we've made. So what I want to do is to just combine another principled shader with the default settings and then mix that into as a layer on top. So let's just do that. So I'll go to add node and go to shader, and I'll drop in a principled BSDF and just place it like that. So this is going to have different properties like the ones we have. So I'll go over here and set the transmission to about 0.1 and drag the roughness, say, to about 8, because it's going to be a material on top of our water material. And I'll just change this color to something different. Let's try some, kind of like dirt on the surface of that water. So I'll just drag this and make this look like some brownish dirt color. So I'm using 8F. Let me just zoom in. So 8F8254, that's what we're using here. And let's add in a mix shader. So I'll go to add shader, mix shader, and just drop that right now. So basically what I want to do is to mix this shader like so and this one, and then we'll pass that result to our material output surface like that. So now what it's actually doing is we have this dirt covering the surface of the water like that. If we drag this to the right, we have our water shader, and then at the top we have like our dirt layer, and then this 0.5 factor is going to be mixing them equally. Now I don't want the factor to be controlled by just a direct mix. I will want the factor to be controlled by a noise or pattern setup. Let's quickly add that pattern setup right now. So I'm just going to go to add, go to texture and add a noise texture. Now there are different textures. We can even mix a Voronoi if we wanted, but I just like using a noise texture. And with the Node Wrangler add-on, I'll just hit Ctrl T to add our texture coordinate, and I'll use the object. So I'll pass that to the vector. I don't need the mapping, so I'll just delete that and just use the object and pass that into the vector. And what we're going to do is just Control Shift click, and I'll hit Control Space Bar just to bring back this so that we can see how that noise is looking. So if I go over here, I'll set the scale to be much larger, turn on the details, and make this slightly soft like that, and then add a little distortion, something just like that. And let's bring in the contrast. So I'll go to add converter color ramp and just drop that there and add some slight little contrast to the surface like that. So I think this is super fine, nothing too complex. I don't like how these are, so I'll just go ahead and make this quite large like that. Alright, so I think that's a good mix. So let's combine that with another noise texture just to have some difference. So I'll go to add texture, noise texture, and just place that, and I'll change this from the normalize, and let's Control Shift click on that and see how that looks. So for the detail, I want this to have some slight detail. For the scale, I'll just make this quite large like that. And for linearity, let's just drag this and then slightly distort like that. So let's combine this using a mix shader. So I'll go to add color, mix color, sorry, not a mix shader, a mix color. And I'll take the output, the factor out of our first noise into A, and pass the factor out of our color. I'll pass our color out from our color ramp into B. And what I'll do is to take this mix and pass it into the factor of our mix shader. And let's, excuse me, and let's pass the surface back to this surface. So now we're actually having some of that mud material at the top, and it's actually breaking our water surface. So imagine we have water. Let's bring in this plane because I think it'll be a nice, way to actually display that surface so you can see what's going on here. So we have our little plane, and what we can do from here on is to reduce the influence that is having, right? So to do that, to make this control, we can add a nice color ramp in between here for the factor to actually, minimize how this is affecting it. What I also want to do is to turn on the 4D for this noise. So let's go ahead and click on 4D, and we can play with the W value just to add some of those random seeds here. And I could just add the scale up a little bit. And what we can also do is to play around with the color. So I'll just darken this a bit so it looks a bit darker. So this is the hex value. It's 5F5638. Just changing some of that value, nothing super serious happening here. So we have a water surface with some kind of mud on top that's not making it super clear. So let's add a color ramp here to control what parts of this to see, like see-through, right? So just add that see-through. Some parts are going to be clearer than the other parts. So let's do that. So let's go to add converter color ramp and just drop it over here. And what I'll do is just begin to drag these sliders like that. I'll just drag this over here just to see the region we're influencing. We can flip that. So with this flipped, we can just begin to add like that. So we might not really be seeing what's going on here, but at the surface we're adding. So if we drag this towards white, we're actually adding more. If I drag this towards the left, we're adding more of that dirt. I'll make this a red color. I'll just take note of this. So I'll just write this down somewhere. Or what we can do is to bring in an RGB node. So I'll just go to Shift A and do RGB and just drop that RGB input. So I right click and copy. I think I should be able to copy the color. So I'll just click on this and copy this hex value. I'll just do Control C and I'll go over here to this color and I'll just do a Control V. So now we have that same color, so we can just play around and change that without being afraid. So I'll just set this to a very bright muddy value like that. And the reason we're having that weird shape is because I pushed the polygons, which I shouldn't have actually done. So yeah, so with this we can easily see where the water is like that, and we can just drag these points to make it more transparent, and we can just drag this to combine that. So you can actually see we have that on our water surface. Let's see that on our object. Alright, so we have this nice little color over here. I'll just set this back to this color like that so we can see our initial brownish water surface. So you can play around with this, do a lot with this, make a lot of changes. We can bump up the brightness of this to create some like cloudy weird stuff here. We can even change the color to a more greenish value, which I kind of like. And what we can also do is to add some HSV, hue saturation, value over here. And let's just quickly do that. And this is going to help us make changes to the color right here. So let's do that. So this is looking like an, acidic weird mix or algae. I like that. I really like that. So let's add that here. So I'll do a Shift A. So I'll do a hue saturation value, and I'll just add that over here. And with this, what we can do is change this. I can try 0.48, and you can see it's giving us a lower version for this. I just drag this down a bit to 0.1 or 0.5 to make this super green. So I'll just do 0.49 like that. And for our saturation, we could desaturate like so. And for our value, we could just pump it down to make it darker, or push it back up to increase the value. So that's pretty much going to be it for our water material. Again, remember, we have these parameters we can expose and change them to our needs in case we need to do things like change our scale for the noise. We can always do that. I'll just set this back to this value. So hopefully that's given you an idea how to create water. I'll see you guys in the next lesson where we'll look at some more interesting features and create other materials. Thank you very much for watching, guys, and I'll see you guys in the next tutorial.